Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Well, this week we're going to focus on the horrific and horrible flooding that's devastated communities throughout eastern Kentucky. We're going to bring you a couple of friends of Kernels of Truth who've been bringing supplies and support to these hard-hit areas, so they'll be able to share with you what they've seen and what needs do remain. So soon we'll bring in Representative Cherlynn Stevenson and Kentucky 120 United AFT member Christina Trosper. After that, we'll move on to our scheduled guest, Matt Lehman, who is running for Congress in Northern Kentucky, lining up against libertarian Twitter troll Thomas Massie. And then we're going to close with our call to action. So, but first, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? We are red right now. I'm not going to lie to you about that. This is a red state. But I think our people know we're getting a raw deal from the clowns in Frankfurt. Our GOP super duper majority thinks their primary job is to stop Andy Beshear, to take away his power and to block his each and every move. But Andy's popular, way more popular and better known than these yahoos. So we've got to connect the dots and fill in the blanks for folks. If you want a legislature that works with Andy, not against him, we need your voice and your vote. If you want a Commonwealth that works for all of us, join Progress Kentucky. It's easy. Just follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever you spend time on social media. Just make sure to like, share, and comment on our content. Help us with those social media algorithms. If you like what you hear on Kernels of Truth, give us a thumbs up, leave us a review, or share out the show. But now we're going to check in with my lovely co-host and see kind of what's got her fired up this week. Because, of course, we're not just some internet, talking heads show. We are a digital demonstration for a more compassionate Commonwealth. And if you know the first thing about a demonstration, you got to bring a sign with you when you come to the demonstration. So who are you, where are you, and what does your protest sign say today? So I'm Aaron. I'm coming to you from Lexington, a lovely subdivision called Chilesburg. And my sign today says Eastern Kentucky is worth fighting for. And then Kimberly, how about you? What you got? Where are you?
I am here in beautiful Louisville, Kentucky, and right now I'm in the luxurious conference room of the leadership here at Macy's. I've just recently gotten hired again and recruited by one of the most progressive companies there is in the world, and that is Macy's department store. Very, very progressive, always on the right side of the ticket, always for trans genders, just everything. And plus, they're going to pay for me to finish my doctorate degree. How you like that? 100% free. So I'm going to make my protest sign today say, I wonder how you all going to take this, but yeah. Andy Beshear for president.
Ooh.
2024.
2024. Oh
Yeah.
my. I am absolutely not signing off on that. I think we can talk about.
I'm going to sign off on it. He would be
I'm
an
all in
excellent president.
Andy Beshear for governor
Yeah,
next
he's going to
year.
be
I mean,
governor
I'm
first.
in.
He's going to be governor first,
Yeah.
but he can
Well,
also move into the presidency as well.
all right. Well, we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about that after the Rand Paul, the Charles Booker, the abortion access on the ballot in November. Then we can think about the governor's race, and then let's talk about the presidency. How about anyway? So we're going to talk a lot about the flooding. Obviously it has been horrific. It's been the only thing that people are focusing on. We've seen hard hit areas, eastern Kentucky, Breathitt, Clay, Floyd, Knott County, Letcher County, Perry County, and Pike County hit very, very hard. Those are disaster areas, have been proclaimed. The governor declared them, or got the White House to declare them to speed federal support to those areas. We've all seen the images. It's just been horrific. The death count seems to be raising every single day because they're just people are missing, and they're ultimately being found, but 17 folks in Knott County, including the 4 kids, siblings, ripped away from their parents, 8 folks in Breathitt County, 7 folks in Perry County, and then 3 folks in Letcher, 2 folks in Clay. So the body count is rising, and that is just horrible. And this came out of nowhere. We saw, I think, a foot and a half of rain over the course of a few days. A lot of it happening kind of overnight. Very, very dangerous conditions. You don't see the water rising around you at night. And these holler communities, these communities with very hilly areas, not much flat land. Most of the flat land is on the floodplain, and that's where people are forced to build. And there, it just really has been just a tragic and historically high levels of floods, which very much in keeping with what is expected with our climate crisis, is that you will see Kentucky is expected to get wetter and wetter, and more of these kind of intense events. These historic 100-year floods are now happening seemingly every year. And the infrastructure is just not ready for it, and people don't have a good place to go, and it is just tragic to watch this all happen and see how many folks have been affected. Obviously, our governor, Kimberly, I'm assuming one of the reasons you wanted to be president is because he's just so amazingly steady and wonderful in a situation like this. He, mobilizes resources. He immediately launched a fundraising campaign. He immediately got on the ground, working with local leaders to figure out what needs existed and how best to meet those needs. And of course, he's giving us the kind of the daily updates, asking folks to turn their green lights back on and to lower their flags to half staff, because he is really the kind of the most compassionate governor I think we've ever seen in our state. He just really cares clearly, deeply, authentically for people. But there's a lot of people to care for, and it just seems overwhelming to see these, Whitesburg and him and these other communities just have gotten hit so very hard. These areas that were just kind of culturally critically important for Kentucky and just told Kentucky's story, and people in those communities committed to, being culture bearers and helping to ensure that the stories and the legacies of Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky especially were shared, right? The Apple Shop and other entities like them that were just overwhelmed by the floodwaters and their entire reason for existing, now very much in question to a degree. So I don't know, Kimberly, what are your thoughts on this stuff and what you've been watching, and how is it hitting you?
To be honest with you, I just saw just a glimpse of what has happened. Call me weak, but it just hurts too deep to continue to look at the footage and the pictures. It's horrendous. And people are saying that the water just came like within 4 to 5 minutes. You didn't even have an opportunity to try to even protect yourself. So I didn't really look at it, and I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I just can't. It hurts me too bad. I feel like crying right now.
Yeah, people are going through a lot. They're going through a lot for sure. And it's hard to see such an important part of our state, an important part of our state, but a very poor part of our state that is the least able to deal with this, right? On many levels, on many fronts, and that's, I think, a really sad takeaway. So I feel you, Kimberly, for sure. I don't know. The sad thing is, of course, like, we're such a divided nation. We're such a, I think one thing that people really appreciate about Andy is he just never brings politics into it, right? Until he absolutely has to, right? So he's not picking fights with Republicans about anything. He is trying to bring folks together and meet the needs that exist. But it's so clear that we just want to divide ourselves, right? We are our instincts right now is we are motivated to hate on the other side. And that is just such a pathetic state. So much chatter on social media that, Kentucky deserved this. A lot of folks, what I've seen is a lot of folks letting people know that it's outrageous that people would be saying Kentucky deserves this because we reelected Mitch. I saw a lot of folks speaking out against that. I didn't actually see very many folks saying it, but I guess, Progress Kentucky, we run with a more humane crowd of raging progressives and folks who are not so distasteful. But that is clearly ridiculous. The idea that some community deserves something because they voted, they reelected Mitch McConnell or whatever. But politics is absolutely entering into this. We're a political show. We got to, can't be remiss in mentioning Charles Booker and Rand Paul apparently have disagreements about the appropriate role of a politician in a disaster. With Rand Paul knocking Charles Booker for actually, bringing supplies to an emergency shelter. That's a weird take, right? But Rand Paul apparently, his idea of how politicians should best respond to a disaster is to make sure to vote against any funding, federal funding, to help the victims of the disaster. That's his track record. Him and Thomas Massie are very proud to vote against disaster relief resources. So, another piece that was, I think, interesting is this kind of, there's a lot of a fight about Joel Pett, who is the cartoonist for the Lexington paper. This cartoon, that when it rains, it pours on poor people. He makes the point here that the folks who are paying the price for this are the folks who don't have the resources to pay for it, right? That's who's getting hit hard by these climate chaos induced floods right now. Apparently a lot of people were offended by this. I kind of feel like it gets back into that, I like to hate on the other side. I think you had to want to be offended by this, like, they're calling Eastern Kentucky poor, so I'm offended, or I don't know. I just think that he was trying to make a point that, like, the people who, like I said 3 times now, people who can least afford to deal with these impacts are the ones who are on the front lines. And that's not just Kentucky flooding. That's, if you look at forest fires, who's hit hardest by forest fires are poor communities. I lived through Katrina in the Gulf Coast, and the folks who took it on the chin for Hurricane Katrina and every hurricane are always the poor folks. So it's not unique to Kentucky. It's kind of how our society is organized, unfortunately, right now. And that's the stuff that needs to be addressed for sure. But I don't know, Kimberly, have you picked up on any of that, the political arguments about all of this, and kind of have you got any thoughts on that?
I got a lot of thoughts and things that I would like to say, but I don't think they would be appropriate at this particular time. Maybe for a show after 12 midnight.
Oh,
But anytime you're talking about Rand Paul, I just kind of blank out because of the simple fact that he's dumber than a bag of rocks. Really, he's dumber than a bag of rocks. Okay, you can get a bag of rocks, okay, and put them in front of you, and they would be smarter than Rand Paul. And I wonder about the people that continue to elect him over and over and over again. Charles Booker needs to take that position, and he can do a lot more because Rand Paul is trying to talk about somebody else. So let's talk about him. Let's take 1 second just to talk about the most stupid, ignorant, trifling senator that I have ever seen in my. I never thought the day would come that I would say somebody was worse than the Grim Reaper, and that is Mitch McConnell. But this, they say you're not supposed to call anybody a fool. However, the foolish, Aaron, I just can't. I just can't even deal with him. And I know people that are listening and watching right this moment cannot deal with him either. It's
well, if things go our way, in 97 days, we can retire Rand Paul. That's it. We're under 100 days now, folks. And I know that there's a lot of folks who can agree with you, Kimberly, that guy is an embarrassment and that he's dumber than a box of rocks or bag of rocks or however you choose to move your rocks around. He's definitely somebody that does not stand up for Kentucky. He's kind of like, he just likes to make random points, going after Fauci, going against Ukraine funding. Just now, one of the only votes in the Senate against expanding veterans health care, the folks who've been affected by burn pits. Like, he was one of the only ones to vote against making sure our veterans are cared for. So I'm sure, Kimberly, that does not land well with you, given your daughter's current positions. So yeah, the idea that this is the guy that's bringing the best of Kentucky, this guy who campaigned on term limits and is now conveniently ignoring them to seek office again. Right. So, yeah, there's a lot of reasons to not like Rand Paul. There's a lot of reasons we as Kentuckians should not send him back to D.C. to represent us. I think Charles Booker has got the compassion. He's got the, drive. He connects the dots. He sees what the role the federal government can play in helping lift up Kentuckians who are dealing with legacies of poverty and, environmental degradation and healthcare and all the things we need to be doing. But of course, we have two senators who do not see that there's a value in the federal government doing anything, right? And one more than the other. So yeah, it's an important time. 97 days. What you gonna do, right? Like, we've got 97 days to get rid of this joker. We got voter registration to do. We've got voter education to do. We got voter turnout to do. We need you to do it, right? And so that's one thing that I think more than anything right now, we should learn the lessons of what a good federal response looks like. And why our senators aren't advocating for more of that instead of less of it, right? So, yeah, I think that's a good point, Kimberly, and I'm glad you raised it. Like, yeah, we got to focus on Rand Paul. We got some time to do. If we're gonna plan for a big retirement party for Rand Paul, we got a lot of work to do to make that party a reality. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is turn to our guests. We've got a couple of folks waiting to chat with us who, again, friends of the show, been on the show before, sharing their perspective on many different things, but who've been on the front lines, have been back into these communities, who come from these communities, who've got insights to share with us. I really appreciate it. So Representative Cherlynn Stevenson's here, and then Christina Trosper as well, teacher and a proud union member. And who's been with us before on these shows. So, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure you are taking minutes from like rallying your friends or planning the next event or whatever it is that you're doing. But yeah, tell us a little bit, Christina. I know you've been a couple of times, I think. What have you seen? What how are people handling this? And what do we need to know about it?
On Friday evening, I think I'm in Knox County. It's been funny to me that a lot of people don't know the geography. Everybody just knows I'm from Eastern Kentucky, and everybody kept asking me if I was fine. And I was like, yeah, I'm on the Cumberland River.
I'm like, let me tell you where Central Kentucky is, and this is all about Eastern Kentucky. So yeah, no, I'm fine. Yeah, I got a lot of well-intentioned folks who know nothing about
least
Kentucky.
They care about her.
They care about us. That's nice.
I was like,
we care about you.
Everybody needs a map of Eastern Kentucky, but I think my husband and I both were, and several of our friends, Nima, who's often on the show, we were all discussing, what are we going to do? And I think our first instinct was to get in our cars and just go. But we knew we couldn't. We knew that we had to hold back, which is really hard to do. So my husband and I, and two other union members, Katie Hancock and Laura Harkey. My husband, we put his Venmo on Facebook, and within probably less than 24 hours, we had $2,000. And we took that $2,000 and we bought supplies. And everything kind of changes on a dime. And that's something I want people to really pay attention to that are wanting to get involved. Speak to people in the local community, speak to people who've been volunteers there or people that are doing things, because the needs change from day to day. I made a really good friend in the little town of Neon named Linda, and then another friend named Harold at the fire station. And they've been an immense help. I've kept in touch with Linda every day. She messaged me and says, this is what we need. I will say, being from Eastern Kentucky, we're used to floods. We're used to devastating floods. Like, we're used to our rivers getting really, really high. And we're used to a lot of, sorry, my dad's here. It's my daughter's birthday. But anyway, we're used to the floods and we're used to the destruction, but we're not used to seeing exactly how horrific that this was. I wasn't. As we were coming in, I could see the water line. I could see it. And the thing that I think that really stuck with me was a lot of these houses that were destroyed weren't on the creek. They weren't beside a creek bed. A lot of them, it was just a drainage ditch, a ditch like I have behind my house, or many people have beside their house, that there was just so much water rolling off the mountains and so much falling from the sky that just nothing could take that. And it was more like a tsunami. And that's kind of the way that I've tried to describe it to people that don't understand the geography and don't understand the devastation of it. I will say that I was not offended by the political cartoon because I understood it, but I was offended at the timing of it. And I think people in Eastern Kentucky, we've always been told we're less than. Our teachers growing up in school who are even from here would tell us to lose our accents. We are very protective, and we very much gatekeep Appalachia because it's been used by so many people, both political parties, throughout the generations, that we are very protective of that. We're very protective of our image. We're very protective of who we are, what we sound like, who comes into our communities, because not everybody has the best intentions. So we are a little leery of that. But I will say that the people that I've encountered, the looks on their faces, it's just, I can't put it into words. Like, I mean, it's just like, just traumatized. And Neon was flooded again on Monday. So what we had saw they had done in the downtown of cleaning out, a foot of mud, taking their library, everything out of their library, sitting on the sidewalks. Well, when the water came through Sunday night, Monday morning, it destroyed every bit of work they had done. Also, homes that weren't necessarily flooded. Everywhere you turn, there's a mudslide. People's front yards are just gone, and they're sitting up on a hill. Their house wasn't flooded, but the whole front of their hill is gone. Cars in people's yards, on their porches. I've never seen anything like it, but I've also never seen. I shouldn't say never. The thing about Appalachia is we do take care of each other. And I've joked that all the hillbillies are coming home to roost because so many people leave and coming back home. I know that's the way it was for Nema. I'm not in, any of the affected counties, but I felt like that could have been me. If that rain came just a little bit farther south, that could be Barberville and Pineville and Harlan. And, it has been a lesson in being thankful for what I have. It has been a lesson in what it means to be a human. There's been no talk of politics. There's been none of that. And it's just people helping people. And I will say, people in Appalachia, we are really weird about asking for help. It's not in our nature. We are very prideful. We are, like I said, leery of outsiders. We have a tendency to take care of our own. And, I look at a lot of the fundraisers and all the things that are going on, and I cannot say this enough. It's not going to be days, weeks, months. It's going to be years. It's going to take a generation to overcome the infrastructure. There's not a bridge that isn't damaged. The road that we came in on Saturday, by Sunday night with the new rain, it washed out. So we couldn't enter Neon that way. We had to go around a back way. And these are poor people. I mean, we are an impoverished area. We're an impoverished area, and we've built this nation. I can't not talk about Appalachia and not say that everybody in this nation should be rallying behind Appalachia. It was our coal that was stolen from us that built this nation, and that's important for everybody to remember.
Absolutely.
And it's been on our backs. And part of the flooding is because of coal companies like Kelly Craft and Joe Craft and them, their money and their policies of how they've kept us impoverished. Our infrastructure was poor to begin with by design. It was designed that way by politicians, by coal barons, by those people. And so when we see a cartoon like that political cartoon where it says it rains on the poor, well, it's not our fault that we're poor. It's not our fault. So I think people, that's where they came from, that we're still kind of in that stage. I know what he's saying, and he's right. I mean, poor people, we do feel the brunt of it. But I don't even know, I really encourage people to go and volunteer. If you don't have money, sharing posts on social media, getting the word out there. It's a once in a life. It is so widespread that, I know Cherlynn's been in Knott County quite a bit. That's where she's from. I've spent a lot of time in Neon, I mean, it's like, and it's 6 counties and they're all equally devastated and all have their own needs. And it's a tragedy.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and bring in Representative Stevenson to share a little bit what she's seen in the community that she's from, I guess, where you grew up, and tell us a little bit about that. I think you're muted.
Yes. So, as Christina said, I am from Knox County. So Hindman is where I grew up. My parents still live there. They had some property damage, but their home is fine. And I went down on Sunday to check on them. My husband and I took a Tahoe loaded down with supplies, and we checked on my parents, checked on other family members, went to City Hall to check on the mayor, and he is actually married to my cousin. So we definitely wanted to check on them, see what we could do, try to find ways to plug in there. Christina's right. The photos did not prepare me for what I was going to see and the devastation that was there. There's metal wrapped around trees that you would see in a tornado. That's how fast and furious the water was there. And as we know, there are still hundreds of people unaccounted for, and those rescues and those recoveries are still happening, and the needs are changing rapidly. They'll put out a call for something, and people have been so amazing at responding that they then just get bombarded with whatever they put the call out for, and then the need becomes something else. So those needs are changing. But first and foremost, let me say food. Food is something that these folks need, non-perishable, ready-to-eat food. I was standing with my caucus sister, Angie Hatton, on Monday evening, and she just stood there and tears just welled in her eyes. And she's like, my people are hungry. And it was so hard to watch. And she talked a lot like Christina just talked. These are our proud people that hate to ask for anything. And the fact that they are hungry and calling and saying, we need food. It's just really hard. People are being very generous. They're sending things like macaroni and cheese and ramen noodles, but these people have no water, only the bottled water that they're getting from donations, and they have no electricity. So if you're going to send food, again, we need non-perishable, ready-to-eat food, and they need protein. So peanut butter, packets of chicken and tuna that either is in a pop top or a packet, protein bars, protein shakes, things like that are really important. And that's something that's really, really hard. And we also have a lot of bridges out. As Christina said, there are so many bridges that are either completely out or damaged to the point that cars, if these people still have a car, can drive over. So we have a lot of people that are actually trapped. Their home may actually be okay, but they're trapped there. And so we're worried about medicines that they may need and getting food to them. There has been an overwhelming amount of folks coming and setting up and making hot food. So people that can get to them are getting hot meals, which is great. And I know that there are a lot of people that are trying to deliver those out. I have seen men in big, tall boots and waders trying to wade through the creek in order to get food to people. And it's really, really heartwarming to see the reaction that we've had. But as Christina said, it's the hot topic right now, and people are wanting to give and trying to find a way, but we need to remember these people for a long, long time. They need our help next week, next month, next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. It's going to take a really long time. As we all know, water systems in Eastern Kentucky were not the best to start with. And so they are really damaged. I know in the city of Hindman, they get fed in from 2 different water systems. So those 2 systems are down, and the city of Hindman then cannot even try to turn on their system to find out where their breaks are until those other 2 systems get up and running. So we are talking about the potential of months and months when people don't have water. So you got to think about that. We're taking tons of bottled water down there, and they have to open a bottle to brush their teeth or try to take a bath. Now, there are various organizations that have brought in mobile showers, and they're setting up in different places, and people are able to go there and get a shower. And I know that my Facebook has been just full of people saying, I have water. Please come here. Feel free to come here to my home to take a bath, to wash your clothes, whatever you need. So watching people step up and try to take care of each other is great. And it's what mountain people have always done, always done. I just can't say enough about the spirit of Eastern Kentucky and mountain people. We are clannish in a really great way in just bonding together and trying to take care of one another. You know, most of the people that settled there were from Ireland and Scotland and those places. And so, you know, it's just a long line of strong familial bonds and taking care of one another. And we're seeing that in ways that we hadn't seen in a long time. But I need to impress upon people just how terrible the devastation is. The rain keeps coming. There have been 2 more floods since the big flood, and more rain is on the way. And these people just cannot catch a break. So we need folks to keep trying to find ways to help get down there if you can. If not, take supplies. So right now there are 2 things going on in Lexington. Tomorrow from 3 to 6, the Fayette County Democratic Party is going to be open, and they are taking donations. Tomorrow at Glen Freedom Dodge on New Circle Road, there's a Camp Hero is set up, and they are taking donations, and I'm actually going to be going back to Eastern Kentucky with them on Friday. I believe we have a 28-foot trailer that we are hoping to fill to take down there. As we said, the needs are changing right now. So some of the things that I know that they need rubber boots, muck boots. They're begging for fans. Now, some people have electricity and you know, they want some box fans, but we also need some fans that are battery powered, and those batteries. There's a lot of people that do not have a home. They don't have anywhere to go. They're trying to sleep in tents or under tarps. So we need tarps. Air mattresses would be great. Electricity being out, candles, flashlights, camping lanterns would be something really, really great, especially if those are solar powered, that they could set them outside each day and they could recharge for then use in the evening. We still keep needing cleaning supplies. Shovels, like with a wide flat mouth, is great to help shovel mud. Floor squeegees are something else that there's not quite enough of that we could use. But again, I do always want to stress the need for water and non-perishable food. I did see today, Phil Pendleton he worked down in Hurricane Katrina, and he has been on the ground in Eastern Kentucky as a journalist there. And he said today that he thinks that this is every bit as bad as Hurricane Katrina was. And so I hope that the country realizes that. I know people around Kentucky do and are trying to help our fellow man. But just like Christina said, folks in Eastern Kentucky built this nation. And I know that a lot of us, there's been a lot of talk about climate change and what's been happening. And there is a time and place for that. But those people down there don't want to hear about that right now. You know, they just know that they've worked really hard. A lot of them have worked really hard all their life. They have been generations in the coal fields, and it has been powering this country. And this country needs to turn around and say thank you right now.
And
for
what
sure.
Cherlynn was saying about the devastation, there was some utility crews in Neon on Monday, one from Indiana and one from Michigan. And it was 2 guys that just happened to be in there talking, and they were talking to some of the other people that were there with our union. And they were saying, you know, we've worked hurricanes, we've worked tornadoes. And they said they have never seen the devastation and the widespread destruction that they saw with this flood. And I mean, it's true. I saw pictures for a when I thought I knew what I was going to see. And we came into Neon, and I just lost it when I saw how just, you cannot put into words what you're seeing.
No.
it's like, it's unbelievable. And when you're trying to express it to people, you're like, you just can't, like, you have to see it. It's that.
Yeah, it's it's yeah, like I said, the pictures could not prepare me. I know that you all have seen there's thousands of pictures out there and what you're seeing, and it just cannot prepare you for seeing it in person, but it also cannot prepare you for looking into the eyes and the faces of these people that have lost every single thing that they have. Every single thing that they have, except the clothes that they had on their back, is gone. And you know, there are a lot of mobile homes or manufactured homes in Eastern Kentucky. And there were places that I would drive to on my way down and back from my parents all the time. And I'm very familiar with that road. And there were places in Breathitt County, like close to the Perry County line, a couple little lots that would have 5 or 6 trailers there. And it's nothing but an empty lot now. Yeah. It is gone. You can barely even tell where the foundations were. It's just unbelievable. And I'm sure that a lot of you have seen the pictures of the fire engine, the fire truck that's embedded up under a bridge. It's really, really unbelievable. And when you see things, there was like those little plastic cars that little toddlers drive, like
everywhere.
It looks like a tree has grown up through it because it's just completely like wrapped around these trees. It's unbelievable when you stop and you're looking at what you're actually seeing and thinking about how that actually happened.
When we were coming back on Monday, we ended up getting all turned around because Sarah was in our directions. But anyway, we ended up way out in the county. I think we're like on Route 7 or something. Like, I didn't even really kind of know where we were. And I was like, hey, looks like home.
Yeah.
But there was not a place, not one place that I drove on 80, on 15, on Route 7 or whatever that road was, in Neon, in Jenkins, everywhere, that was not devastated. Not like just like a little bit of water, like devastated. They were pulling out a brand new GMC Denali. It looked like it was a pancake from under a bridge. There was, I mean, the things that there's like the whole mountainside had come off one mountain. I can't. It was, I couldn't believe what I was seeing everywhere you look.
Yeah.
So I hate to cut this off, but we are over time. I just want to thank you for what you've done, what you will do, and the tips to make sure that people know they're donating what is needed, and that the needs will change from day to day. But it seems very clear that battery operated things, as folks are operating without electricity, they're not operating with dependable drinking water. They got boil water advisories, and if you don't have electricity, how are you going to boil your water? So I think gallon jugs of water as opposed to no one wants to take a bath with the little screw top. But yeah, so I think lots of needs. There's stuff happening tomorrow at the Jeep dealer, also at the Fayette County Democratic Party. You can drop stuff off, but really important that people do commit to the long haul. As Christina said, this is not going to be a 1 month deal. This is going to be multiple months, if not years, to help communities come back. And I think we need to make sure that we're checking in and not just going on with the next news cycle, because there will be another tragedy. There will be another thing to distract us from what these communities have experienced and are going through. But I'm sure we'll turn back to Cherlynn and Christina to remind us what's going on. So thank you guys so much for what you've done.
Thanks so much.
I do want to say one thing though before we go. I haven't had an opportunity to speak, but Representative Stevenson,
yes.
I met you at the chicken bristle farm.
Yes.
Yes, and I looked at my phone and I have your number.
Oh, good.
So there's a couple of things that I'd like to discuss with you after the show tonight, if that's okay.
Sure, for sure.
Okay, great. Okay. And Christine, I love you, girl.
Girl, you can come down to Barberville anytime, honey.
Girl, don't tell me that.
Girl, you have to come. It's we got a giant chicken in front of a store. I mean, we're just high class down here, sister.
Well, thank you all. Thanks for giving part of your evening to us and helping inform our viewers of what's going on there in Eastern Kentucky with the flood impacts. All right, so we're going to need to move on now. We are very pleased that we've got an kind of stream of interviews, talking to as many candidates as we possibly can. between now and November 8th. And one of the most annoying members of Congress, I think, across the board, is here in Kentucky. Thomas Massie, and he represents Northern Kentucky. Sorry, Northern Kentucky. But thankfully, we have got somebody who is stepping in to take him on. That is Matt Lehman, and he is with us this evening. Matt, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Sure
Thanks, Aaron.
thing.
Thanks, Kimberly. It's good to have a chance to talk. And it's not just Northern Kentucky, to be clear.
Right.
A lot of the Louisville suburbs and some of the areas, north of Lexington, and actually going towards Asheville as well. It's cover a lot.
Yeah, our lovely gerrymandered districts in Kentucky. We do not have anything too compact, except for the one Louisville district. Otherwise,
this is the one. I don't know. My grandpa derisively called this the Gene Snyder district. We never understood why there was a guy in Louisville that represented Northern Kentucky for so long. So,
tell us a little bit.
Gerrymandered for a while.
It has been. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like what's your backstory? Why are you the guy to take down Thomas Massie? What motivated you to get involved?
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, briefly, look, I'm a native Northern Kentuckian, grew up, born here, went to high school in Kenton County, Covenant Catholic High School. Found my way to the University of Louisville, where I was a proud Mitch McConnell scholar at the time. And so, despite my disagreements with the senior senator, it's the majority leader, as he likes to be called. That it is a good program, and really, it was interesting. I mean, I had a chance to meet with people like Hillary Clinton and Bill Bradley and Madeleine Albright, who, the senator did, in fairness to him, he did bring, and it was quite a bipartisan group. But anyhow, after that, I moved to New York. So I went to graduate school in New York. That's when I found my way into the medical research field. So I've spent my whole career in drug development, vaccine development, moved around quite a bit. Spent 5 years in Ukraine, a couple years in Germany, California for a few years, made my way back to Kentucky 7 years ago and settled in Newport, Kentucky with my family. And we started a company in Louisville called Coligo Therapeutics, which is now part of a larger international company. But we had developed, this was a spin out from U of L, where we developed a treatment for pancreatitis based on some technology that had been worked on at the university there. So, I've always been interested in politics and in policy. I've always been inclined to get involved, but just, with moving around and with work and my career, and I got 3 kids, never really found the time to get involved in the way I am now. But I do have that opportunity to do that this year. And, you mentioned with the motivation, I really dislike, maybe not personally, but I dislike our congressman. It is very frustrating. I mean, I spent enough time in business, here in Kentucky. I mean, it's a running joke at this point, or, anybody in Northern Kentucky, if they actually need help, and this goes for county judge executives, mayors, business people, chamber of commerce, airport board, the list goes on. If you really do need to work with a federal representative, they don't, I mean, at this point, they go to Hal Rogers or John Yarmouth or Andy Barr, even, depending on kind of where you are in the district. So he just simply fails on the basic, the real basic part of being a representative is to represent your district. And then certainly on the other side, I mean, he hasn't, I don't know, I think he's maybe gotten 2 bills out of committee the last 8 years that never even got to a vote on the floor. So, he's not representing, he's also not legislating in any productive way. And, his bills, the bills that he does write that don't go anywhere are usually unserious and kind of dismissive. So it's, I think it's very frustrating. I think it's frustrating for people in this district, people in Northern Kentucky, and frankly, Kentucky as a whole. It's a bit of an embarrassment to have, I can call somebody in California or Florida or Texas, and they know who Thomas Massie is. He's done a great job of getting his name out there, but not for anything that would be productive or advance any of the interests of the people of Kentucky. So that is my motivation.
I think anyone who watches politics with any sort of seriousness can see that he is an unserious character. And that is, that's not what we need. We have communities throughout Kentucky that could use, actual federal resources and revenue. And, thankfully, because of the Biden administration, whether it's the American Rescue Plan or the, the bipartisan infrastructure law, we are teed up to be able to have significant investments in our state. Thankfully, Andy Bashir is taking that seriously and is delivering for our communities. But, we would be better served if we had actual representatives who are committed to that work as well, and not just voting against everything to make some sort of weird point.
And along those lines, I mean, I think there's several important points. One is, as you mentioned, I think the governor has done an excellent job at being, bringing our fair share of those funds back to fund, the infrastructure bill to Kentucky. And thank goodness he is in office to do that, and has a very competent administration. He works very closely with, the local governments and, that are impacted by these projects, but also with various federal representatives. So I'm very clear, and I tell people, I mean, imagine what we could do here in Northern Kentucky if we actually had a partner at the federal level to do even more. The other side of this, this is where I do find, I mean, Representative Massie can be very peculiar. He did something highly unusual this year, where he inserted himself into a number of the Republican state representative primaries here in Northern Kentucky. That's not typically what your federal congressman would do. And, he backed 3 so-called Liberty Caucus or Liberty candidates, and they, beat 3 committee chairs. So Northern Kentucky, we had 3 committee chairs in Frankfort: Sal Santoro, Ed Massey, who's of no relation, spelled differently, and Adam Koenig, who, and Sal Santoro in particular, I mean, he was the chair of the Highway Budget Committee in Frankfort this past session. He brought $1 billion of road funding back to Kentucky, and so it is very strange and very destructive behavior, to back, again, I mean, these are kind of, I would call them almost insurgent Liberty candidates with no particular background in state legislature, to lose our influence and the types of people that are actually able to work in Frankfort for the benefit of people in his own congressional district.
That is a really good point. It is. I think watching him, I call him one of our 2 Liber-Hera twins, right? So he and Rand Paul have this kind of similar outlook that, politics is for making outlandish points. It's not about actually delivering for anyone. And they seem to think that their main role is to be against government. It's like, well, if your role is if you're against government, why are you a part of government? And why are you, standing in the way of, these systems that we've developed to help our people? And similarly, Rand Paul thought he could be a kingmaker, and he went out and endorsed a bunch of candidates and helped them and I think they've all lost. And, he's not really, you don't really want his endorsement. Probably similar with Massie. These are not people that you bring a lot of shine to your candidacy if they're lining up next to you. But I want to turn to Kimberly, because I know that she's got lots of thoughts about Massie and et cetera. But also the kind of healthcare thing that you bring, I think that's a really important perspective, and I'm really glad to hear that you've got that background, because of course the healthcare system in America has got all sorts of problems and challenges, and I think it's ripe for constant tinkering and reform. But I don't know, Kimberly, what do you want to ask Matt about his position or about his campaign?
Well, first of all, we love Matt.
Hi.
I had the opportunity to meet you, and also one of my good friends, Alexandria, ran last time against Massie and was unable to defeat him. So there are some little notes that I took, because I want to know, when you get to Congress, what actually you are going to do for your constituency. Number one, I know this is going to sound crazy, but these are some of the things that people are concerned about. So I found some really, really odd things to ask you tonight.
All right.
Okay. You like that?
I'm looking forward to this one. Yeah.
I know we're going to have so much fun. Okay. Number one, because you're not just going to represent your constituency, you're representing all of America because you'll be voting on things that will affect all Americans, right? I'm right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, number one, have you seen The Swamp?
Have I seen The Swamp? Is that a video? I don't think I have. Is there a video or a movie about that?
Yes, it was about Matt Gates.
Oh.
It was about Thomas Massie, and I believe the one up there in Colorado. I forgot.
Lauren
And
Boebert?
it talked about how they had to invite people and go make these phone calls and get all of this money. But the one thing that I remembered about Massie, when he's talking about a Tesla and he's talking about this and how he's wanting to do his farm, he on his license plate in the back around it was like, I love coal. Like, how are you going to have an electric car, but you love coal? So I'm just watch it. You will learn so much. Plus, you're going to learn some stuff that you're going to have to do when you get there.
I will.
Okay, we're already calling that. Okay. We're going to just act like right now you're Congressman.
Okay.
Lehman, okay. Is that
I
okay?
can do that.
Okay. Now, there was a woman arrested in Louisiana, but there are other people as well. What will you do as a congressman to get rid of a website called rentahitman.com?
Okay, well, that is out of left field, huh?
It's a real deal, though. It's a real deal.
Yeah, in fairness, I will be on. I do not know much about that website. I mean, that certainly sounds like a terrifying prospect. I will look at that, but I mean those are things I take very seriously, and I'm trying to remember what what was that name of that. There was a website where there was a website that eventually did get shut down, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of the website.
You're talking about the what was it, the Ashley Women or Ash?
No. I'm talking about where you could trade weapons, you could hire hitmen. It was kind of a very dark website that the FBI spent a number of years investigating. They finally shut it down. They've arrested, and I think he may have gotten life in prison. And I'm just completely drawing a blank on his name. It was very peculiar. One of the things, and this was a few weeks ago, Thomas Massie went on social media about the injustice of that person being behind bars. And again, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but despite multiple requests from the FBI to shut down the website, this gentleman had put out hits on several of his employees who were talking to the media about the illegal activity happening on this website. So, like I said, I don't know the specific site you're talking about in the specific instance in Louisiana, but I am a firm believer in justice and investigating things that are illegal and being and those types of things. So I would take that very seriously.
I love that answer on that. I really, really do.
Okay.
Because I didn't even know about the other situation. So you know more than what you actually think you know.
Yeah.
Now, the next one I have for you is we found out that there is a California OBGYN by the name of Dr. Meg Autry. And on insider.com, it states right here that she is planning to build a floating abortion clinic on federal waters, which would be free from state restrictions. And she would like to really saturate more or less the southern states where abortion is completely restricted, more or less. Would that be something that, since it's on federal waters, if you, Congressman Lehman, how would you vote with that, or what would you ask for that, or add to it?
And that is a story. I am familiar with that story, and from and you don't know all the details just reading the news story, but it certainly appears that is legal and would remain legal under current law. Listen, my approach to reproductive rights, and I do talk about this. I mean, I firmly believe. I mean, women have agency over their own bodies. I mean, it's not something that really, I believe women can make their own complex moral healthcare decisions, and with their family or their doctor or whoever they need to include in that conversation. And I do think it's really long past time. I've actually felt for a very long time that relying on Roe versus Wade for reproductive rights was always a weak spot. I mean, it took a long time, but it took. I don't think these types of things should be left up to the whims of the court. I think these are things that need to be legislated. I'm a student of history, of political history and political science. I mean, throughout the history of the United States, we've had times when Congress was stronger, when the courts were stronger, when the executive branch was stronger. I mean, the last generation, we've lived through one of the weakest, the weakest Congress, the legislative branch after September 11th in particular really gave up a lot to the executive branch and the judicial branch. So in terms of national security and international affairs, I think Congress has given up too much to the executive branch. So we've had a very strong executive, and I'm getting a little tired of every president issuing increasing numbers of executive orders. That I think Congress has also given on hard questions that nobody really wants to talk about, things like reproductive rights or marriage equality or these types of things. Congress has just outsourced that to the courts, and I don't think that's appropriate either. So I do think that these are things that need to be legislated. And again, I'm not naive. I mean, we've also dealt with increasingly gerrymandered districts, and districts seem to be getting less competitive. So it's been a hard environment to put in, let's say, some more moderate Republicans, moderate Democrats that can actually bridge a divide and get some of these difficult things legislated. But, I am hopeful. And I do think these questions, especially with the current court, are really, hitting people home. I mean, we need Congress to act and do the job of legislating and representing, this country. So that would be my approach, is finding a legislative solution rather than, again, outsourcing the job of Congress to the courts.
So floating abortion clinics in the Gulf of Mexico aren't your first instinct in terms of solving.
It's fine. I mean, that's that's obviously a temporary solution. That's not a long-term, that's not a long-term solution to this problem, right?
Well, we've definitely. I do think that I understand the instinct. Like, yes, we should legislate for sure. You have got some political headwinds that you were battling, right? I think, the numbers are looking better and better for Democrats, but they started at a very poor place. And I think it's really interesting that, this kind of confluence of issues is happening right now where democracy does seem to be on the line. You look at these MAGA candidates all across the country who disagree with democracy, right? Who just want to say elections are all stolen. And so they're going to get to the bottom of it in a way that makes no sense. That women's rights are under attack, that, our environment seems to be also kind of on the chopping block in ways that are significant and real. And, the healthcare generally is, we've done some things to tinker at the margins, but it's still not where it needs to be. But I think it's interesting to think that, you can legislate some fixes for sure, but the deck is stacked against real representation right now, as you alluded to. And what are some of the fixes that we can get to ensure that the will of the people is actually able to be represented?
Sure. I think you bring up, and don't take this the wrong way. I do challenge progressives a bit too sometimes. I mean, in the sense that, to win elections, you have to build consensus with people who may be, third party or Republicans, and build some opportunities to build bridges. And I've been very deliberate in my campaign about that. I know, I don't have, you don't have to agree with everybody all the time to find good representation. And I think both parties, we can talk about Thomas Massie all day, and he has really put himself in an extremist corner of the Republican Party. But I think there are places, again, I think Democrats could be a lot more competitive if there was a deliberate effort to find common ground. And I think that Kansas vote last night was very clear. I mean, there were Republican districts that overwhelmingly voted no. And so, are there opportunities to find, important issues as a progressive or as a Democrat where we can work together with Republicans that we find, common ground with independents or third party candidates. Sometimes I get a hard time for it, but I challenge progressives sometimes. There's activism and there's legislative role. I'm not running as a progressive activist. I mean, that's not the job I'm applying for. I'm looking to be a representative in Congress. So that does mean, you have to, again, build common ground with as many people as you can. I mean, again, I can have polite disagreements or professional disagreements with people, but they can still vote for me. I think that's every so often, if you get lost in sort of the big national issues, and you let like CNN or Fox or MSNBC sort of drive the agenda, and those are the 3 or 4 talking points, and then politics becomes this nationalized ground war where national parties are fighting for a couple of seats. And I think there's individual examples of both Democrats and Republicans that have been able to win in seats that you wouldn't necessarily have thought by approaching it the way I'm talking about.
I think that's a good point, and I concur. I mean, I would challenge you in this current political landscape to give me some good examples of where real legislation happens when it seems like the politics has overwhelmed the system, when you've got folks voting against marriage equality, folks voting against burn pit veterans because they're annoyed at the other side winning the vote or something, right? So but I like the idea. I'm with you on the principle. I'm good with that. I'm not looking for a politician.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not naive, but you gotta, we got to start somewhere.
For sure. That's
one
true.
step at a time.
You're not even there yet. How could you be dissuaded from this, this great ideal when you haven't even been in the swamp yet? But you'll watch the film. You'll get back to Kimberly about the takeaways for the swamp. We put it in the chat. You can find it there.
No, but and before I did this, so I talked to about 8 or 9 current and former members of Congress, in Kentucky, Ohio, South Carolina, Florida, people, a couple of Republicans. I talked to Democrat, one in a very red district in Florida at one time. And everyone told me exactly, one, nobody I spoke with who served in Congress has ever regretted it. And secondly, they said, don't let anybody tell you you can't have influence. I mean, it's remarkable what you can get done, even in that again, it's not on the front page or it's on the headline on MSNBC or anything, but if you really do follow what's going on and you follow what Congress does, there's a very large budget at the federal government. There's a lot of agencies. You really can have a lot of influence, and that was across the board, Republican, Democrat, people who approached this job with a level of seriousness and willing to do the work. It's not always pleasant work. It's not, I don't even know if it's an honorable, politics is an honorable profession. But it is necessary. And if you do the hard work, you really can have an impact on your district, on your state, on the country.
That's awesome.
So
but the first thing we have to do, Matt, we have to get you there. How do we get you there? What do people need to do to help you get elected? How can we support you?
Yeah, sure. Find me on I have a website. Find me on social media. It's Lehman for Kentucky, pretty much across the board. So it shouldn't be too hard to find. If you Google Lehman for Kentucky, you'll find me. You can always email me, matt@lehmanforkentucky.org. There's a lot of opportunities to volunteer. From canvassing, door knocking, phone banking, all sorts of stuff. So again, reach out by the website or by email to the campaign. We have tons. I have a organizing director based in Covington. I have a finance director, and my campaign manager is based in Louisville. I have a communications person. He's actually based in Cincinnati. So I got a team of 4 helping to run this very professionally. Donate money. So that's the toughest part about my district is I have 4 media markets. We have Cincinnati, Louisville, Lexington, and Ashland, Huntington. The truth is most of the voters live in, first in the Cincinnati media market, secondarily the Louisville media market. And after redistricting, we have a little less of Lexington and the Ashland market, but I do have a lot of advertising to do, and so we do need to raise money to make sure we're running an effective campaign. So you can do that on the website as well.
Awesome. Make a donation, come volunteer, help out, take down one of the most annoying members of Congress. With
I
what
always leave at anytime I talk with anyone listening to this live or tape later. I challenge you to call 5 Republicans in the 4th district. And all you need to tell them is do a little research, look at Massie's record and look at my website and make your own decision. So I do need people to do that as well.
Absolutely. Do your own research. All right, Kimberly, any final thoughts before we
Yes,
let
most
Cherlynn go?
definitely. I'm calling those things that be not right now as though they are and they will be. And so I will continue to call you Congressman.
Oh, thank you.
You interviewed well. I'll give you the job.
Oh, thank you.
And
And I like that. So I got a book for you to read. It's called Psycho-Cybernization. So my high school basketball coach, he was a big proponent of this. And it's about how you visualize winning. And so we used to practice basketball without a ball, and we'd pass and shoot and everything. And so I think that's how you have to go into these types of elections. So look up Psycho-Cybernization. I'll look up the swamp.
Awesome. Well, hey, Matt, thank you so much for giving us so much of your time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's only befitting that I saw that one of my absolutely favorite people in the entire world, okay, he is in my top 10, and that is Stefan Moore, who is actually the president of the Kentucky Young Democrats and also working along with you.
That's right. I mean, Stefan
I just wanted to give him a shout out as well because he's so wonderful. I admire him, and because he's rolling with you, I'll roll with you.
That's all right. Yeah, and he's the hardest working man I've met in this business. So
he really is. He really is.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and good luck on the campaign trail. And I hope that our viewers, head over to the website, make a donation, find some time that fits to get into some of these precincts and do some door knocking, or call 5 sensible Republicans and say, hey, your representative doesn't seem like he's sensible or representing your interests. And maybe we've got a better chance here with somebody who's, going to take it seriously, is going to work for the district. But we got to get him up there first. So thank you so much, Matt.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the time. Have a good night.
Sure thing. All right. So Kimberly, I think we're going to hand it to you to close it on out. And what an interesting show, right? Like, oh my gosh, I was just moved. I was inspired. I was pissed off. And now I'm ready to get rid of Thomas Massie. So,
he's out of there.
We've run
with
through
Congressman Lehman. He is out of there. Look, it's over. Yeah. It is over. Okay. He's going to demolish him. I'll bet you $2.
$2
in Macy's money. You can get $2 off of something at Macy's.
Yeah. That he's going to win. That's high stakes. That is high stakes, Kimberly.
I know what I know. And, we're going to have us like a powwow one day. And I'm going to tell you and break it all the way down about why the big dogs in Washington, D.C., the DNC, all of them, that they never give us the money we need to beat Mitch McConnell or Rand Paul or any of them. We're going to talk about that.
We're going to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. I got
stashing your tinfoil hats, people. We are going to hear about what is going on and why the big dogs in Congress are not doing what they need to do.
Don't
All right,
give us
Kimberly,
any money.
close us out, will you? Could you please?
Yes, I will. I mean, we
Went
had some
late.
wonderful guests tonight, and a special thank you to Ms. Trosper and Representative Cherlynn Stevenson, and also the upcoming congressman. We hope, cross your eyes, cross your fingers, cross your T's, cross your legs. He's gonna, yeah, I know a winner when I see one. Now, we want you to take our poll. Yes, I know you didn't hear from me last week. I was working and doing some things with the party. However, we need you. We've got a lot of responses. We need to hit 500. Can you just please take a few moments out, like right now, and help us pick the worst actions of the most terrible, horrible, no good, very bad, let me just say trifling legislator, okay? And once we hit the 500, we will share with the media what the supermajority is really doing and what you, yes, it's about you, what you think about what they're doing, okay? And we're going to be back next week with a great guest, and we hope that you log in and join us. And, you know, we always like to have a good time, you know, get your popcorn, put your feet up, you know, have a good time. That's what we're about. So let me also tell you that Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State, okay? We are a 501c4. And also, I would like to say that we are affiliated with the Indivisible Project, and also affectionately known as CAVE, but it is really the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement. So Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate. We're going to organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Production this night was from my favorite person that knows what she's doing when it comes to production, and that is our own Annabelle Nigel. She is wonderful. I'm so proud of her. She is my sister for life. Okay, yeah, I'm that young. I'm her sister. Okay, yeah, believe that. So also, I want to always say thank you to Nate Orshan, who provides the music for our show. And every week, I hope you're saying it along with me. Go to natosongs.com, and that's NATO songs.com. And if you miss us like now, you can like go back later on Progress Kentucky and click on the link, and you'll see the handsome Aaron Viles. I'm just saying that because, you know, in a few months it'll be my birthday. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, the handsome Aaron Viles and all of the gang, okay? We want you to listen, and we want you to click like for the algorithms and share it with your friends and family. You know, a blessing is to give to other people. So go ahead and give to your friends and family about our show. And also, if you're at work and you cannot look at us, you can surely hear us on all major platforms of podcast, iHeartMedia, Spotify, and on and so forth. So I'm just going to tell this to you really quickly. Whatever you do, be a blessing this week to someone. Do something nice for someone sometime. You've made it through hump day. Okay, you got a few more days until you're off. Pay something forward for someone else. Okay, and it'll make them feel good, which will make you feel good, and we all win. So check it out next week. Same channel, same bat time. And you know what? We'll see you then. Have a good week.